Hey everybody, Dan here, and welcome back to my shop. This is another video that I'm doing on this mid-century modern cabinet that I'm working on. Not cabinet, end stand, night table, nightstand, end table, whatever you want to call it. This is the cabinet portion, which is a trapezoid shape. And I was working on it and I fucked up. So this is the bottom piece of it, and it was a little too wide, so I had to trim it down at an angle. And when I went to do that, I cut the angle the wrong way. And then pairing it back the way it was supposed to be, I made it way too short. So I could have made up a whole nother panel to use for this, but I really didn't feel like doing that. I mean, I have the poplar to do it, but it was a lot of work. I thought I'd try and salvage this instead. So what I did is I took a couple of pieces of walnut, and you can see I glued them on the edges there and kind of trimmed them to fit a little bit. So now what we'll do is we'll retrim this the proper way this time, and hopefully we can make this fit in there. And since the rest of the cabinet is going to be stained walnut, this will look more like an accent strip or something like that. It's going to be on the bottom anyway, so it's not going to be particularly visible. Let's get over to the table saw and see if I can pull this off without fucking it up, okay? All right, the best tool I have for doing this is my digital angle finder. And we want to set this to 50 degrees. You know, one of the things this saw doesn't have that I really wish it did is a crank to adjust the angle of the blade. You really just have to kind of yank it to where you want it and get it there the best that you can. It's suboptimal, but you know, for a budget job site saw, I really can't complain. Now, when I go to square it back up to 90, that's when I don't use the angle finder. I use this machinist square. So I think it's more accurate. Okay, the moment of truth. That is about as good as I can ask for. That's just about perfect. So we're going to keep that, and if I have to make any minor adjustments, I'll do that in post. I look a bit like Elton John with these on. Okay, now that we've got everything for the cabinet cut to shape, we have to do the joinery. And the joinery in the plans calls for dominoes. And I don't have dominoes. And you'll have seen by now the other video I did where I talked about using a router to do dominoes. So that's what I'm going to have to do here, but these are not square. So I'm going to have to try and do my router domino trick on angled pieces. All right, well, I think that seems to have gotten the job done. I'm using a different router bit, so this floating tenon piece is thicker than the new bit, so I'm going to have to make some new floating tenon pieces. But it seems to have done exactly what I needed it to do. I didn't blow out the other side. It seems to be straight and square, nice and clean, so I think we're good with this. And I'm going to leave the rest of them until after dinner or maybe the weekend. I don't know if this is going to be part of a long series of videos or a playlist of shorter videos. Haven't figured that out yet. So either keep watching now to see the rest of this, or tune in next time to see the continuation. One way or the other. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you when I see you. Hi. So this is where we're at with this particular project. This is the Mid-Century Modern Night Table and Stand, End Table, Nightstand, whatever it's going to be. I have arrived at this point and hanging in so far. My first attempt at this trapezoid shape was a complete fucking nightmare, to the point where I just broke it apart, milled up some more poplar, and started all over again, salvaging some of the old pieces in the process. Now, it's not perfect. The box assembly isn't quite square. This edge is proud a little bit this way when this one's lined up, or, vice versa. You get that one lined up and this one's a little proud down here, but the angles are good, which is really what I care about. I can always trim a little something off to make it dimensionally correct. I got my holes lined up properly, which makes me incredibly happy. Although it looks like this side is sitting. Is that hole? I know, it's my back of my head. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So, okay. This side might be sitting a little bit higher. It's okay. I can drill in a little bit to square that up. These two pieces here may not be perfect. Or you know what? Actually, I haven't even squared the legs. Well, they seem pretty good. Anyway, this is where we're at right now. I'm really happy with how the stain took to the poplar. That's exactly the kind of chocolatey brown walnut color that I wanted. So that's where we are. I think this is just going to be one segment in a long video about this project. So I guess I'll see you in the next segment, okay? Time for another update on my piecemeal video about my mid-century modern cabinet. I have done my first ever sliding dovetail as a drawer slide for this. It is not perfect. It does bind a little bit. I'll work that out. It's a little too loose to be used as joinery, but it's nice for a drawer slide. So it'll be sliding in and out along this. Obviously, that part will stay inside the drawer. Anyway, that's this particular update. I will see you in the next part of this video. Okay, I got a quick little addition to the video here that I'm really proud of. I wanted to make a drawer stop so the drawer wouldn't come all the way out. You can see we've done that. Just underneath, I don't know if you'll be able to see it there. Yep, there it is. There's a little, see, there's a little dowel right there that's stopping the drawer from opening all the way. And you reach inside here and lift up on this, and you'll see that lifts up over the dowel. And then you can take the drawer all the way out. Now, here's the extra cool part. I can just push the drawer in. The stop goes up and over the pin that locks it in place. And now the drawer is locked back in place. Very proud of that. Okay, part whatever of the mid-century modern cabinet. We got a little mess up here. As you can see, something is out of square. It might be the drawer, it might be the drawer slide, it might be the cabinet. I don't think it's the drawer slide because I spent a lot of time measuring that. That's a pretty healthy gap there. So it's not a hard fix. We just need to shim this side out. But my concern is This gap is so big, the shims are going to show. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to route an inset around the inside of this drawer. Around the inside of the drawer face, matching the drawer. So then we can inset the drawer in, and then when we shim it out, you won't be able to see where it's shimmed out. So I think that's what we're going to do there. Right. Hello, hello. We are here at the final part on the Mid-Century Modern End Table. As you can see, it is finished. At least I think it's finished. I don't know if I'm going to do a little more finishing to it before it's finished or not. But the construction is done. Learned a lot, did some interesting things. Let me bring you over here and show you some of the screw-ups. All right, I'm going to show you the good and the bad here. So first of all, let's start with the face here. As you can see, my angles are not perfect. We've got a little bit of a gap in there, a little bit of a gap out there, although this one is pretty tight, and I think this one's tight. So close, but not perfect. If I was to do this again, I would spend more time working on getting these perfect. I also fucked up and cut this too short. So you can see the color change right there. I actually had to splice pieces on, which from the side, well, you can't see up that far, but it makes this the same color. So that is what it is. This is the sliding dovetail that I cut for the drawer slide, which I'm happy with. This is the dowel stop for the drawer stop that I made. The drawer motion isn't perfect. It's a little sticky. I'm sure that will loosen up over with time, but it's not bad. For a practice piece, it's not terrible. So I'm reasonably happy with it. I think I may refinish this. It looks a little dull. Someone suggested doing lacquer for it. I don't know if I want to or not. Lacquer adds a real plasticky sheen to everything, and I'm not sure that's the look I want for this. All right, you can see on the top here, I got a little bit of chip out when I was doing the splines for the miter cuts. It's really prominent here. Obviously, you can see that's been chipped out and repaired. That was just me being lazy. I know what I need to do. I need to score the wood first and then run the dado stack through it, and that way it'll break at the score mark. I was rushing a little bit. It's a practice piece. So I know what I need to do differently for that. I am really, really happy with the color of this, and I'm surprised by that. Typically, I don't like working with poplar because it's got a greenish hue to it. See, it's a lot more prominent on this one. You can see how greenish that is. And it's kind of an unpleasant, sickly kind of green, I think. But after cutting and finishing it, it seems to have transformed into a nice kind of rich, almost coffee or cocoa brown in the dark areas. And I actually really, really like that. So I may end up using poplar more often now if I know I can get away with that with it. Yeah, this shows up clearly with the bright light and the close-up view, but you can see along here, this angle wasn't quite right. So I filled the gap in with sawdust and super glue and sanded it over, and I've got this kind of murky line here. It's not super apparent in real life. But again, that's where I know I need to be more precise with my angle cutting. All right, on the bottom, you can see I've got some dowels put in here. There's more on the other side and one in the center. That is because I used screws to clamp when I put the bottom piece on. And when I did the center rail for the drawer slide. And instead of leaving the screws or leaving the screw holes, after everything was set up, I drilled them out and filled them with dowel plugs. It's fine. It's on the underside of the piece, so it's nothing anybody's ever really going to see. This is a tough glue up challenge because of the angle of the pieces. What I did intentionally was I glued the top and the sides first. And once that was all cured or set, then I cut the bottom piece to fit whatever those angles were, which were ever so slightly different on each side. And I figured that gives me the best shot of getting this to fit properly. And also, if there were going to be any gaps, hopefully they'd be on the underside and not on the overside. Couple of spots where my splines ran a little bit short. I have to pay more attention to that and make sure it's more than long enough. So when I do the trim off, I don't have any gap like right at the end there. I think I mentioned in another part of the video, I did make this drawer a little bit too long, just by a tiny, tiny bit. So I couldn't inset the back piece the way I wanted to. And I actually had to route a groove so that the front piece would inset a little bit and come up flush against this here. So that was just my mistake in being a little bit careless with my measurements. Well, actually, that's not entirely accurate. I made the cabinet. It wasn't perfectly square, so I had to square off the front and back of it. And when I did that, I lost enough material that it ended up making the drawer too long, and I had made the drawer before everything else. So that's where we're at. So that is my mid-century end table study piece. I'm happy generally overall with the look. This is a design I got from Shaun Boyd. I will include a link to the original video with his plans along with this. I don't want to steal credit for somebody else's work. It's not exactly like his because he did dominoes in the corners and I did the spline miters. So, and he didn't put the drawer stop in his that I put in mine. And of course, his was made out of maple and walnut. And this is poplar. And some of the pieces are stained to look like walnut, or they're stained to be brown like walnut is brown. They don't look exactly like walnut. And I don't want to be stealing someone else's work. So I'll include the link to that. I'm overall happy with this. If this was my own design, I can see there are things I would do differently. Like, I'm not sure I like the legs in this orientation. I almost think I would like them turned 90 and being oriented the other way. Something to think about in the future. But working on a piece like this, working off someone else's drawings like this, helps me form in my own mind ideas about how I want to do it and how I would design it. So that's always important to do. Artists for centuries have copied the masters first and then moved on to do their own work. So going with someone else's plans, building something that someone else has made first that you really like is, I think, a valuable thing to do. As long as you're not passing it off as your own design, it's perfectly fine to do that. And it helps you learn about what you want to do. So anyway, that's it for this piece. And I will see you in the next video. Bye.